pressure building for the president as he meets with Saudi leaders. Iran, oil, human rights, all on the agenda, with the top goal of increasing oil production in Saudi Arabia and lowering the cost of fuel for everyone here at home.
It was just a short time ago, too, that you see Biden arrived at the Royal Palace as well, and he shared a fist bump with the Saudi Crown Prince ahead of course, their highly anticipated meeting. Biden is also meeting separately with King Salman. So a lot of pressure on Biden to see what happens, what he can get accomplished, and we're watching all of it for you from Jeddah today. But another story we are watching, of course, is this talk now, John, about the January 6th Select Committee. They're set to hold their 8th hearing next week, and reportedly they've been weighing whether or not to seek testimony from former President Trump and then Vice President Mike Pence as well. Yeah, we'll talk more about that with Committee Ducard. She'll be joining us in just a moment, live from the Capitol. And the House passes a bill that would push the defense budget past $800 billion next year. Now, that's almost $40 billion more than what President Joe Biden asked for, John. Yeah, Bianca, the Senate has yet to pass its version of this, but the Senate Armed Services Committee has already backed an even larger increase, $45 billion over President Biden's proposal. Both chambers will meet in conference to figure out a final number, but don't be surprised if it continues to grow even bigger. Joining us now to discuss this and more, Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Thanks, John.
Well, we can't even fill the recruiting requirements in the military right now, partially because the Pentagon is so woke. But Congress seems to have no problem giving the Pentagon $40 billion more than President Biden even asked for. Is this a good idea?
Well, I don't often give a whole lot of deference to President Biden when it comes to protecting the country. I'm not sure he's entirely with it and can even focus on something like that. I do believe America has to continue to hold the high ground. A point I've made very frequently in the Armed Services Committee is that we are behind when it comes to hypersonics. We are degrading when it comes to nuclear deterrence in the triad. And so I support these investments in our military. I do think we need to de-wokeify the military, but I don't want my kids and grandkids growing up speaking Mandarin, and China has the desire to dominate us economically and militarily. We need to make sure that we continue to possess the capability to always ensure America's freedom.
De-wokeify, we got it. All right. So, Congressman, we want to also ask you about this recent hearing, the Democrats' abortion bill that was sponsored by Rep. Karen Bass. You two got into a bit of a heated exchange. Let's play the clip now for our viewers.
Ms. Bass, you didn't use the words that were confusing, so I'm not going to yield to you.
And it is my bill.
But you didn't use the words in description of it.
And guess what?
It was Ms. Ross who used those words.
Ooh,
and if I want to ask questions to Ms. Ross, she could choose whether or not to yield to give the answers. But you covering
but
for
you're not
her,
really interested
she doesn't know
in
the words she uses and cannot in the Judiciary Committee sit and answer the questions on something as important as life or death when I control the time is outrageous.
Are you done?
I'm done when my time's done. And when I'm done, you can yield for those questions.
I mean, obviously, a heated exchange, but do you think your point got across at all? I mean, this nationwide debate post-Roe v. Wade now seems to be going into a meltdown mode for the left and the progressives.
Well, what's interesting in Congress is that Democrats are trying to make almost every bill about abortion. In the House Judiciary Committee, we were discussing whether or not to provide neonatal care and care for pregnant mothers in prisons, and the Democrats wanted to turn it into an abortion debate. Now, I'm glad we are a pro-life country, and on these critical issues like when life begins and when to ensure we have protections for mothers and for unborn life, I want to make sure that we join the modern world and that we're not left with the likes of the despots and the dictators, and that means we become a pro-life country. And so it is, I think, oftentimes a very cantankerous debate, but it's one worth having. And I think the American people need to see that this modern version of the Democratic Party is not where Bill Clinton was. I mean, Bill Clinton said he wanted abortions to be rare, safe, and legal. This version of the Democratic Party wants abortion on demand up into and perhaps in some circumstances after the day of birth. And that's something that we're fighting against.
Was that Jerry Nadler's voice we heard there? It sounded like it was actually really painful for him to remind Karen Bass of what the rules were and that, in fact, you did have the floor. He almost choked on his gavel, perhaps. You mentioned this, though, kind of, but specifically House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters yesterday, Congressman, that they have no plans to negotiate when it comes to a woman's right to choose. She was asked about a scaled-back version of their abortion bill that could actually pass in the Senate. She didn't want to negotiate on that. I know House Republicans are talking about things like preventing federal funds from being used to support transportation to states that still allow abortions. But what ultimately happens with this? I mean, it seems like this is ginned up for the election year. What happens next year?
You nailed it. That was it, John. I mean, right now, Democrats realize that inflation is crushing people. They have a president in decline, bringing our nation in decline, an embarrassment as a vice president, some, octogenarians as their leaders in the Congress. And so they're trying to reconstitute the Democratic base around the issue of abortion. Meanwhile, Republicans are advancing pro-adoption legislation. We're working to try to build a culture of life, not just during pregnancy, but beyond. And that's what they don't really want to negotiate on. Democrats don't want consensus. They don't want to move legislation forward that will help expecting mothers. Instead, they want to try to enrage the American people, activate the most militant forms of their base, intimidate the court with these illegal protests outside the homes of justices, and then they want to hope that there are just like enough, people in the suburbs to be able to go out and vote for them despite their economic concerns. But what we continue to see over and over again, these issues of inflation, the rising price of goods, that's what's in the forefront of the mind of voters.
And still, Congressman, you see Kamala Harris, she's out calling on people to build coalitions in support of nationwide abortions on demand. Take a listen to her comments.
We build coalitions. We know how to do that. We got the meanest, baddest phone trees in the world.
That's where they're at. And,
Has she ever built a coalition around anything? Kamala Harris has no support at all.
She did get the sentence out, though.
She did. At least she got the sentence out, but she has never stood for anything. She's on both sides of a lot of these issues sometimes. And I think that also, illustrates her point, Congressman, is, she and so many other folks feel like this is really their chance to change the topic of conversation from the economy. But I don't even think she bought that. She got it out cleanly, but I don't think she buys it.
What's so clear is that the Democrats probably already would have moved on from Joe Biden if the alternative wasn't so obviously more embarrassing in Kamala Harris. And what I think the tell is, in the clip you just played, is that they view abortion as their principal political enterprise going into the midterms. And I just don't think we're a country that's going to back this Nancy Pelosi bill that they're unwilling to negotiate on, that is the most radical, pro-abortion legislation that our country may have ever seen considered in a serious way.
And I think this, like so many other things, they want it to fail. So they have another example of why the Senate is bad and we shouldn't have the Electoral College and the minority should have, no rights in our discussion as a republic. That's why I think they want this to actually fail, like so many other things.
Well, and if it does, then it facilitates their argument to pack the court.
Right.
You're totally right. They would rather have the issue than actually solutions to help mothers and to protect unborn life. And if they don't get their solution through democratic means, then they're going to try to restructure our institutions to bend to their will. Right. And that's something that should concern all Americans. Right.
Well, the other thing, too, happening, and it's a distraction, is the show trial of January 6th is playing out. And, it's interesting because there's a clip that's gone viral. AOC has a hissy fit, Congressman, over that comedian Alex Stein. Everyone knows he's just having fun. She can't take the joke when he's talking to her as she's going in. A bit more, though, from Red State, which we want to call out specifically, Congressman, where AOC apparently admits that the Capitol Police opened the doors on January 6th. So does AOC herself think this was an inside job? Let's listen to what she said.
That there were actual officers working with this, and we never got to the bottom of that, and we never got any answers about that. And then to this day, we're just supposed to pretend that that never happened. I have no idea what happened to the people on the inside who were very clearly sympathetic with what was going on and opening the doors wide open for that.
So let's find out what really did happen, Congressman.
oftentimes when AOC speaks, it's like an explosion of verbal diarrhea. There is not a lot to decipher there. I think that AOC doesn't really know what was going on outside during January 6th because she was, locked in some closet, trying to create some sort of fear dynamic. But the people who came and were unwittingly drawn into violations of federal criminal law, I think have a good defense where we see videos with people taking down barricades and waving folks through into the Capitol. No American who didn't intend to commit a crime should find themselves on the opposite side of a federal criminal action. And I think that, if AOC did anything there, it probably hurt her cause because it showed that, yeah, there were probably people that just got booby-trapped in this whole situation who are being treated very unfairly.
Maybe the committee should play that clip, but doubtful.
Yeah, they'll have to hire a different producer if we're going to get that one in. Congressman Matt Gaetz, always great to see you. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys.